I've got this great app on my phone. I think it's called Picture This. And I can use it to identify plants. I love it. I actually bought a year's subscription to it because I like it so much. I take pictures of plants all the time. I even scan in the pictures of plants that other people take. And one thing I've noticed is the varieties and hybrids of various species and plants that I like. The differences, it's just amazing. And if there's anything that's just surprising is how overwhelmingly the plants in your area probably are not indigenous. I mean, the number of flowers and weeds and fruit-bearing plants and trees that started in another country long ago are just unbelievable. You just can't even believe the quote-unquote invasive species that there are in the plant world right where you live, let alone where I live. I went in somebody's garden recently and just went around taking pictures of the many different plants, and I couldn't believe the fruit-bearing plants in their garden. Little teeny ones, not yet fruit-bearing, but there were walnuts and plums and cherries and apples and many of them varieties from other locations. I was amazed. And it made me think about something. It made me think about the promise of a better life, a better world. I know there's problems with globalization and invasive species. I understand that. But the benefits of hybrids and all of the plants that have been brought around the world seem to me to far, far outweigh the lack of diversity. We need diversity in our world. It's not unlike what Jesus said. See, Jesus said that every tribe and every nation, every land, and Paul went on to say, male and female and educated and not educated. That's what he pretty much meant when he said barbarian and Scythian and everything. But he basically was saying somebody from every walk of life and every background, every kind of person is going to be in my kingdom. And my kingdom's going to cover the whole world like the plants do. You see, a globalized economy is the way God's kingdom works. That's the church. It's like the plants. They're meant to spread. They're meant to intermarry, to be hybrids. We're no longer living in the time when we're restricted. We are opened up. We are far more expansive in our thinking. This kingdom, like the plant kingdom, it's meant to stretch out. It's meant to be inclusive. It's meant to intermingle. Jesus really gave us, and so did the apostles, this picture. And right from the very first day of the church in Acts, we see a list of people from around the world. Now, there were ideas in that first century that came from other locations that were going to be dangerous, that were going to be difficult, that needed to be dealt with. But that's true in every kingdom, in every world, in every situation, every family. It doesn't matter how exclusive or purebred or nationalistic or family-oriented or you are. You put two people together and you're going to have two opposing ideas. And you're going to have that as well in the plant world, there are going to be things that just don't go together very well. But the truth is, we need, as good gardeners, as good horticulturalists, as good forest workers, we need to find a way to integrate. We need to find a way to welcome. We need to find a way to have each plant in its proper place, doing its proper thing, but working together as one large ecosystem. And we need a little bit of freedom and trust. One of the greatest beauties, really, in this world is the fields of flowers. I know I talk about it all the time, but that's what I think. Meadow flowers, nobody plants them, they just spread. They just do their own thing. That's the way the gospel works. That's the way the kingdom of God works. It's not something that can be put on a spreadsheet. Oh, you can afterwards analyze it and see God's order and plan. Sure, of course you can. It's not that it's without order. I mean, even the distribution of people and reproduction and human life is highly ordered, but really it's orchestrated and ordered by God. And like the stars, there's a lot written now about galaxies all in a line. Well, and we just shouldn't see patterns like that. Expect to see patterns. Expect to see patterns, macro and micro patterns. Because that's what happens when you have intelligent design. That's what happens when things work right. But I think I want to encourage you, embrace your Chinese rose. Embrace your American oak. Embrace your rhododendron and whatever other plant it is that's been transplanted in your area. Whatever hybrid there is that's come from a nursery. I think my mother used to have this wonderful flower bed next door of Sweet Williams. Wow, the variety of colors in the Sweet William family. Or one of my favorite flowers of all time, the snapdragon. I just think it's amazing. I love the snapdragon. One of the things I love about it is that it grows volunteer, that we find it or see it so often just surviving in a wall in England somewhere. It's amazing. I'm so thankful for it. The snapdragon. I don't even know what country it came from. I haven't really ever looked into it very much. Now I got a challenge for the day, look into the snapdragon. But I know I love them. And I love them partially because they're hardy. And it brings me around to one of my favorite, talk about it almost every day, creatures. And that's these parakeets. One species of which is the monk parakeet, supposedly let go from a zoo or a pet store here in Brussels long ago. But right now, we got a flock of parakeets. Parakeets don't belong in this part of Europe, but here they are and flourishing. Yeah, pets out of place. Animals not where they ought to be. Probably end up being hybrids, transplants, grafted into a new ecosystem, not by design, not with a plan of man, but adding to the variety of life. It has added so much joy to my life. I hope that my constantly going on about it adds a bit of joy to your life. Maybe you'll look it up. There's a lot of good photographs out there and information about the plants and animals that you find around Brussels, that I see on my little path here every day as I walk to work. But I see it as well when I'm helping at the vaccine center at the airport. Last night, Lisa and I worked there. We saw people from every country coming to get vaccines. We saw people from the Middle East. We saw people from the Balkans. We saw people with Russian background. And we saw Mediterranean people. We saw Northern European people. We saw people from Southeast Asia and from the Americas and from South America. Even I think we had a couple Australians come through. The thing is, where we live now, the whole world comes here. The whole world comes to Brussels. But God has invited the whole world into His kingdom. I hope you have a heart for the transplants, the hybrids, the plants with a background that has nothing to do with where you live, but there they are, firmly established. And I hope they bring you joy, because they sure do me. That was my thought for the day about God's globalized economy when it comes to the church and to plants and animals. Have a good day.